Yeah, I couldn't believe Treka, Danu.
She's not here. I wonder what Trakatanis got for us today. She said we're going to make containers for our baby trees.
What are these plates for? And this looks like clay.
Hello, kids. Oh, hello, you out there. I didn't expect you here so early. I was still getting everything ready.
Trakatanu, remember when you said we're going to make containers for our baby trees? Well, I brought this.
What is that?
It's a pot. We used it to make our masks the other day.
It's not really suitable to put a plant in. It doesn't have a hole at the bottom for the water to drain out.
What's it made of?
It's made of clay. That's a very good idea, Olivia. Thanks for bringing it in.
But this pot here doesn't look like the clay on the plates. This clay here is much harder.
That's right, Yolandi. Clay can be processed or changed.
What? What's clay? Huh? How can you make something that looks like that? I'm sure there's some magic here. Huh? How can such things become so hard? I think this time these safari kids are going to go really wrong. If they want pots for their trees, why don't they just go to the shop? What? What is Trakatanu going to do, huh?
Now, each of you have some clay. See if you can make a container out of it. Dig in. I want to see all those nice decorations, guys. I've given them clay with different amounts of water inside. Fence is finding it hard to shape his clay. It's too dry and keeps crumbling. Tabo's clay is too soft. It won't hold its form and it keeps collapsing.
Mine just broke into different pieces.
Sorry.
Mine's just fine. Look at what I made.
Oh.
My clay was too soft. I couldn't do anything with it.
Yes, in fact, I gave you all clay with different amounts of water inside. Clay needs to be processed so it's easy to work with. What we can do is leave the wet clay out in the sun so it can dry out a bit, and we could wrap the dry clay in a wet cloth so it becomes more workable.
Oh, I see.
Will my clay be as hard as the pot Olivia brought?
Well, if you leave your clay to dry out, it will become hard. But if somebody knocks it, it'll break easily. And if you put water in it, it will turn back to soft clay. The pot that Olivia has brought has been in a very, very hot fire. When processed like that, clay gets much harder. And even if you put water in it, it won't become soft clay again.
So if clay is put in fire, it gets stronger. Then I suppose it would be a very suitable container for our trees.
Hey, Marvin,
Yeah, boy, Marvin.
have we got any ice?
Nope, we've run out.
Oi. Hey, we'll have to buy some.
Huh? We don't have to go and buy ice. We can process our own.
Process our own? That's crazy.
Marvin, didn't you ever listen at school? Ice is just hard water. When you put water into the freezer or into a very cold place, it turns into ice.
Oh, it does? Oh, of course, it does. I knew that. Hey, that's what I'm going to do.
What?
I'm going to process ice and sell it to the hyenas.
Oh, I hate to tell you this, but the hyenas know about ice. They were listening in class. In fact, Marvin, everyone knows that water can be transformed into ice by the cold.
Aha! Not everyone went to school. Hey, I'm going to speak to the donkey. I'll bet he doesn't know. I'll bet he can't even spell water. He'll buy ice from me.
Oh.
Phew.
Oh, Marvin.
Now, let's have a look at another type of material, wax. You've got to be very, very careful if you ever get to work with a stove like this or boiling water. They're both very dangerous. You should make sure that there's a grown-up around to make sure that you're safe. When we heat wax to a very high temperature, it melts and turns into a liquid. So I'm gonna pour a bit into each of your plates. That's all of it. Stove is off now. Let's have a little bit poured into your plate. Okay. Careful not to touch it, it's still very hot. There you go, a little bit for you. When it gets cooler, it becomes easier to shape. Start molding everybody. So you see how easy it is to mold. When it gets cold, the shape will harden.
Why is that?
It's one of the properties of wax. When it's hot, it becomes soft. When it's cold, it's hard.
So it's the opposite to clay then.
Exactly. And that's because wax and clay have different properties.
What's a property?
Oh, that's easy. A property is a house.
Yes, you're right, Pense, but that's another meaning of property. Let's ask the old tree to tell us about properties of materials.
Hello again, all of you. You're all so clever today. Now let me see. Property. The properties of material, like for example, wax, clay or ice, means the way the material behaves when we heat it, cool it, soak it, bend it, cut it, squeeze it, hit it, or drop it. All materials have their own special properties. I hope that helps.
Thank you, old tree. Now have a look at your wax cups.
Oh, now that they're cold, they've got harder.
Now let's put water into them and see what happens. Let's start with yours, gentlemen, sir, on the counter. Can I have a way?
It's waterproof, just like my pots.
Now you see why containers made only of wax will not be good for your tree pots.
Because it breaks so easily. Yo, it's gonna take us a long time to make all the containers we need.
Factories make use of something called mass production, which means making thousands of items very quickly. Let's have a look at how they do it. Potter's clay is bought in powdery form. Different types of powdered clay can be mixed to produce the required quality pots. An amount of powdery clay is mixed with a small quantity of water and kneaded well through, either by hand or by a special machine which presses the kneaded clay out in the form of a sausage. In order to change a smooth kneaded moist clay sausage into beautiful pots like these, the clay has to be hand formed on a potter's wheel. To mass produce clay pots or containers, potter's dies can be used to ensure the pots all have exactly the same shape. Or a watery clay mixture can be poured into casts excess poured off, allowed to dry for 2 hours, and the cast carefully broken away. Both hand-formed pots and mass-produced clay containers are allowed to dry out well. They are then baked in a potter's oven or kiln at high temperature. This is normally done in 2 phases. The first firing produces a light-colored, fragile bisque pot. After the second firing, the pot is darker, somewhat smaller than after the first firing, and very hard. The finished pot or container can then be decorated by painting with potter's paint and or glaze and baked again so that the paint and or glaze can bond with the clay pot. It's useful to know about properties of materials. Then we can process them and use them in a way we want to.
I see what you mean about processing. So, for example, clay needs to have the right amount of water when we work with it.
That's right, Tabo. If it's too dry, it needs to be wrapped in a wet cloth so it can absorb water. And if it's too wet, it needs to be dried up a bit in the sun.
And we were processing the wax when we heated it and made it much softer, so we could shape it and make it into a container.
Well done.
Cool, Trekatanu. Now I get it.
Finally.
Process. What it makes you cannot guess. Watch the water turn to ice. Warm the wax but treat it nice. Bake the clay for a sturdy pot. Work with properties, what have you got? Process. A process.
What? Huh? Well, I never ever believed it. You can change things if you know what you're doing. What? Hey, this Trekatanu knows everything. These safari kids are learning to do such clever things. What?
What kinds of materials have you used in your technology class before? Did you process and change them? Wow, look at the time. When you're here next time, I'm going to show you how we can process paper to make a container. Yes, you'll have to wait till next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye!
Process. What it makes you cannot guess. Watch the water turn to ice. Warm the wax but treat it nice. Bake the clay for a sturdy pot. Work with properties, what have you got? Process.